you have any bright ideas about how you can make your workplace run more efficiently, save some money, reduce waste, all of those kind of things? Well, here at Village Management Services, there's a money program called Bright Ideas, and you can get cash for your great ideas. Joining us to tell us a little bit more about that is Siobhan Foster. She's the CEO for VMS. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning, Michael.
I know you had a busy budget week last week and lots of presentations, but this sounds like a really fun program that a lot of employees can take advantage of. How did it come about?
We worked with our VMS board and developed the program, and we launched it in January. It's an industry best practice and something we wanted to give a try.
And it's employee-centered, which is kind of like a focus, and you put the value in the employees and their ideas, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about like what kind of input you're looking from employees. What is the program all about?
Sure. Again, it's to incentivize our employees to share their great suggestions. Anything that reduces costs, promotes financial stability, enhances our service quality and processes, innovation, improving safety, and things like that. We encourage our employees, to participate.
Right. And a lot of ideas come from within. The people on the front lines of whatever they're doing say, what would work better is this. And so I think that's probably one of the reasons why an employee-centered program like this can be the best way to do that, because they see the efficiencies or they see where their shortcomings are, right?
Right. And we try to reach out to all of our employees, so anyone's welcome to participate.
Okay. So how does someone qualify to be in the program? Do you say, hey, here's my form, here's my idea, here's how I turn it in? How does the program work?
Exactly. There's a form that we use, electronic or paper form, if they're not on the computer on a daily basis. And again, the categories are on the screen, and we just encourage our employees to participate. They're eligible for rewards up to $2,000 based on the suggestion impact. And those suggestions that may save more than $50,000 annually are eligible for up to $3,000 and perhaps a little bit more based on a conversation with our boards.
Right. There can be some big ideas out there, right? And it's just like waiting to be kind of like, and when you say to someone, hey, we're going to pay you cash for your ideas, like, oh, I'm going to start thinking about this a little bit more.
Right, exactly. And then the program funding comes from the savings that are generated.
Right.
So that's
right. So it pays for itself in a sense.
Exactly.
If you saved $50,000 on some sort of idea or somebody came to you with, obviously you're going to want to reward that, that employee in some sort of way, shape, or form, right?
Definitely.
Now, what about ideas that don't really add up to money? Like, let's say a safety change because it protected people, but there's no real cost savings there. How do you maybe honor a staffer that does something like that?
Again, it's a big part of the program is recognition, so they would certainly receive due recognition. We have set milestones where they would be recognized by their peers, by board members, and so forth. So we still make a big celebration out of it.
Oh, great. Great. So let's talk about some of the other things. So you have you guys have already awarded some of this. So this is not a brand new program, but it's in its early stages where you have some results. Can we talk about some of that? You've done 5 awards so far. $4,500 has been handed out.
Yes.
And what is that savings added up to?
It's almost $71,000 for that amount.
Terrific, and that's going to be, and it's part of the 2024 business plans already. They're already incorporated into the plans.
Yes, and then we have some pending suggestions that are currently under review. That includes things such as certified mailing reductions that may save $4,600 annually, a paper reduction plan that may save $5,300 annually, and a uniform modification which could save $9,000 annually.
That sounds terrific. There's this theory out there, you might have heard of it, some people have, but it's called disruption theory. And it says, you can't do what you're doing the way you have always done it. Figure out another way. It's kind of like an exercise in those kinds of things. And they had this thing in England one time, and the tube, the famous subway system out there, was going to be shut down for major repairs and overhauls, and all these people had to figure out different ways to work. And then when it was all repaired, folks came back and they said, but only about 90-something% of the people came back to the tube, and so they reached out to the people who had been annual pass holders. And why aren't you coming back? They said, I found a better way to work that I never would have thought of if I hadn't had this kind of disruption. And so, are you looking to maybe disrupt in good ways the way you guys have always done things here?
Oh, definitely. And I think my last interview with you, we talked about efficiencies and cost savings. So we're definitely looking to be kind of as lean and mean as we can.
Right, right, and there's always that little extra that you can maybe squeeze out of something, right? In terms of like just looking at something in a different way.
Right.
So Ryan Costello,
our warehouse manager.
Warehouse manager. Here's one idea. I want to hear a little bit about this guy.
Sure. He worked with our water heater vendor and distributor to improve the purchase process. So water heaters are special order equipment here because they have to fit in specific spaces, and they're not stock items. So Ryan worked with the vendor to make an arrangement where if VMS purchases a set amount each year, the distributor will store units locally and provide units at a lower cost. And this is going to save $26,000 annually.
Right, okay, so that's just one of those ways you look at something and say, hey, here's the way we've always done it, but we don't need to do it that way.
Right, is there a better way?
Is there a better way? And there you find it, so that's terrific. So it's $26,000, so water heaters are a big deal. I mean,
every unit has one.
So. Right, and I guess with the age of, the village, every year a little older, so that's kind of like you said, that annual thing, it's always going to be there. So at VMS, you knew, okay, how do you make that calculation? You say, well, here's what we spend annually anyway, so you kind of guaranteed that to the vendor?
Yes.
Okay, terrific.
A certain quantity.
Certain quantity, yeah, so that makes sense for them, and everybody wins. So the broadband team, you have another great story here?
Yes, when our Building E employees moved to a temporary new location, a communication pipeline between this building and that new office space was needed. The broadband staff members, Mark Dabinion, Hank Deming, Guadalupe Hinosa, and George Rodriguez, quickly put a plan into action. They acquired fiber optic cable and a fiber patch, engineered a path for connectivity, pulled more than 1,500 feet of cable, and terminated the fiber at each location.
Okay.
And this is going to save $23,000 over the next 2 years.
That's terrific. Yeah, and so there's just people putting their heads together and saying, hey, here's a better way to do things.
Yeah, great initiative here, yes.
Step back for a second before we have some other stories, but I want to step back for just a second. What in terms of a management perspective, what makes you guys say to yourself, and I think it's a good thing, hey, we should do this for our employees. We should come up with this Bright Ideas program or something like that to do that. What in you and others said this is going to work? How did you know that? Is it because of the value you see in these employees and making sure you see them as valued?
There's that, and several of our board members had private experience with similar programs in their workplaces when they were employees. So
okay. So these are the efficiencies that the people just have discovered along their ways, and I think that's probably one of the advantages of these boards here in the village, as other ones that they come with so many decades of experience. These folks, and they've been through it all, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about our next one, Ada, and she's senior financial analyst.
Yes, and she developed a new approach for calculating and reporting the cable franchise fees. It combines revenues and expenses for 3 work centers instead of separating them out individually. This was implemented in the 4th quarter of last year, so we're already experiencing the savings, and this is going to save $18,000 annually.
So how was the calculation being done differently?
They were separated out. I guess when you put them together, the net impact is less. And again, more of an accounting thing than I'm familiar with, but
it's just that opportunity to take a fresh look at something and say, hey, how are we doing this? How can we do this differently, and how can this be an efficiency?
That's correct.
And we have another one from the administrative assistant.
Yes, and Jayanna works in landscaping, and she's developed an idea to reduce the amount of business cards purchased. Obviously, we're all going electronic these days, so using QR codes and so forth.
Okay.
So we're going to reduce the amount of business cards purchased, and this should have an estimated savings of about $4,700 annually.
So now this one's probably a good example. This is an idea, but it's going to take some work to make that happen too, because now I have to have my business card live electronically somewhere, and someone has to enter that information. So is it a matter of, okay, we've developed a new system that's going to be more efficient, or is this something we're already doing and we're linking to it? Hey, just make a link to it instead of that.
I think we had it in the infancy, but this is going to push it ahead probably more vigorously.
Steamroll it up, kind of made it blow up a little bigger so everybody can do that. So just click on this like everybody discovered during COVID. what QR codes were, I think most people discovered because everybody's using those for menus.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden I'm using that. I say, oh, how convenient is this? And I think that the QR code was kind of one of these things that, were people using these or not before the COVID? And then all of a sudden, it's like,
Everyone
wow.
knows how.
Now everybody knows how. We have them on screens. We had one up yesterday when we were having our Saddleback College emeritus program up there. I said, just look at this, take that picture on your screen and link there.
That's great. Yeah.
And let's see, we have another one from another administrative coordinator.
Yes, Delphine suggested streamlining the department holiday lunch celebrations. Most departments have a lunchtime celebration at the
Sure.
holiday times by decorating a space here in the village and using approved food vendors. So
Okay.
this saves departments from going out to lunch. They can have a really festive location. Employees stay on site. There's less travel time, reduce costs. And they did a pilot last year in one of our departments, and that saved money. So we're estimating a savings of at least $1,400 annually
That's terrific.
from that.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, when you look at that, when you say to yourself, okay, that's not a big saving, but there's an efficiencies there, right?
is.
Everybody's not taking all that time to decorate and redecorate, buy different decorations. Where are we going to have ours? When you designate that, and okay, you guys are having yours on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
Right.
and that makes an efficiency. So I think it's what we were
Absolutely.
talking about before. It's like, okay, it's not, you don't look at that and say, oh, it's a big number thing, but you look at it and say, okay, that made it so much easier for
Right, and less
everybody.
time away from the office and
Right.
so forth.
Yeah,
so.
and people are doing the decoration, taking down the decorations and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. Now, this is one that affects a lot of the residents here, the opt-out
Correct.
for the mailing.
And this is just a friendly reminder, you've heard me talk about this before, but residents can opt out of their paper mailings, and these happen in November and April. This saves $7.50 per resident. And so if 12,000 members were to opt out, we could save $90,000 a year. With the new state law that governs this, the response deadline is September 1st. So if you're interested in opting out, we need you to do that soon.
Okay, and the
And-
information's there on the screen.
Yeah.
Now, the opt-out, I mean, a lot of residents are always looking for ways, hey, how can my dues go down? How can I keep
Exactly.
things from raising? So this is a way that every resident out there can really make a contribution, and it seems like a small thing. It was like kind of like voting, my one vote, but it adds
Adds
up.
up.
It really does add up to what you guys are saying, could be $90,000 in
Yes,
savings, and
which
we
is
get,
significant.
that kind of efficiency.
Correct.
Right.
And then similarly, the last item I have is just an encouragement that residents use our Dwelling Live app to have their guests come into the village rather than calling resident services to have them authorized. And again, it's an app that's available 24/7 using your smartphone, tablet, and so forth. We have great tutorials on the village website and the YouTube channel. So we really encourage our residents to use this technology. And again,
Right.
that frees up staff to work on higher level
Okay.
things. So,
Here's my idea. I'll give you a bright idea right now. Let's get the PC Club involved in this and have them do a couple of these sessions with folks who want to come down there and figure out how to do all this stuff.
and they
Yeah.
already are.
So I'm not
No.
getting any credit for that idea.
No, they're partnering with us, and they've been just a tremendous help.
Right, and that's one thing I think on the technology side in terms of opting out of those mailers and doing so many things online. I think that's one of the things that can be a real barrier for a lot of the residents here is that they didn't come up in that technology generation.
Right.
And so there's a little bit of that in terms of putting everything on the internet and putting everything on their phone. I think that can be a little challenging for folks, right?
Right.
And so working with PC clubs and others like that is terrific. So Bright Ideas overall, you feel like this is going to be a permanent part of VMS going forward?
I think so, if we keep seeing the results that we're seeing. And again, we have several under consideration now, and undoubtedly there'll be more implemented from that. So
And VMS employees, they can get all the information. They have all that information. They can go ahead and make those applications and keep those ideas coming in.
exactly.
Siobhan Foster, CEO for VMS, thank you so much for joining us and talking about this program today.
Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate
thank you. You're watching This Day. We'll be right back.